the people who don't like them, the Muslims, surrounding Muslim countries, are also people who don't like us. And currently, every major city in England is governed, it has a Muslim mayor.
Why are there twice as many Christians living in Qatar as there are in Israel, do you think? How do we get all these Muslims here after 9/11? They all came after 9/11.
Yeah.
Who encouraged that, exactly? Who encouraged that? And it's a lot of the same people who are now encouraging us to hate Muslims. Why is that? Because Israel bombed Doha, because we were doing a peace negotiation with Hamas. Why is that our job?
I would say, and this is going to take more time than we have, but the people in this instance, the people who don't like them, the Muslims surrounding Muslim countries, are also people who don't like us. And Muslims...
Who specifically? Which government are you talking about?
Okay, that's the government of Dearborn, Michigan.
You know, a lot of the Muslims in Dearborn are Christian. Well, I mean, a lot of the Arabs in Michigan are Christian, so just like in point of fact. And I'm okay with them because they're fellow Christians, even though, you know, they look different. But I don't know. I haven't been to Dearborn in a long time. I can't speak to Dearborn. I'm against, I'm a Christian. But I rate that against the actual threats.
But think of it this way. I've seen England for years. I've seen England as 20 years behind the continent and America as 30 years behind England. And currently every major city in England is governed, it has a Muslim mayor.
It is striking how often this rhetoric is repeated by American politicians and influencers when discussing Britain. Piers Morgan, one of Britain's best-known television presenters, has pushed back on it more than once. He described Sadiq Khan as one of the best mayors London has had, pointing to the fact that Londoners elected him to 3 consecutive terms. This suggests that for some of these critics, the issue is not the mayor's competence, but the fact that he is Muslim.
Their immigration policy has been disastrous, like ours. Only ours, our southern border, has been largely Pentecostals and Trinitarian Catholics that have come across the border. Right. Islamists in Germany and Islamists in the UK are an entirely different
thing. I have family in Europe. I'm there constantly. I was there like 10 days ago, so I agree with you completely.
And so someone could argue, as I would, that the Muslims who are threatening Israel are Muslims who are threatening us.
Yeah, I mean,
Islam is a greater threat than the Jews.
Yeah, is the problem with the Muslims of Europe that they're too Muslim or that they're criminals?
Well,
I mean,
that's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not though, actually, and it's not. And let me ask you this, and I'm totally not for Islam, okay? I'm a Christian. Why are there twice as many Christians living in Qatar as there are in Israel, do you think?
Twice as many Christians in Qatar as...
In Qatar. Yeah, the Islamist slave state that we hear so much about. But there are twice as many Christians living there as in Israel. And they can leave if they want. They came freely, but there are twice as many in Qatar. Why do you think that is?
Can they build churches?
Yeah, actually the state gave them the land for their churches. But why is that if what you're saying is true? Because it's not true, actually. Right. Islam is false. I don't believe in it. Don't want my kids to be Muslim. I'm not Muslim. But we have the reality that you experience when you get outside the American media biosphere is so different, the reality, from what you're describing. The second question I want to ask is, how do we get all these Muslims here after 9/11? They all came after 9/11.
Yeah.
Who encouraged that, exactly? Who encouraged that? And it's a lot of the same people who are now encouraging us to hate Muslims. Actually, JDL was totally for it. Totally for it. Completely for that. You could not, for 25 years, no, they encouraged that. So what is that? I don't know what that is, but I know that the same people who are like, Islam is the problem, are the same people who brought us all these Muslims here.
Right, because
I feel like I'm being played a little bit, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. The left wants discord. The left wants to foment problems.
Well, they don't like white Christians, so they wanted to dilute the population in the United States, and they did it systematically through migration, and they did the same thing in Western Europe. And I think we should stop all immigration, period. And I would also say that at this point, you can't, we have this non-Christian society. Like, we're not going to have an overwhelming Christian society in my lifetime, sadly. But what do you do with that? And the first thing you do is recognize that attacking people on the basis of their DNA is going to turn us into Rwanda. The same people crying anti-Semitism constantly, telling me I can't have free speech rights because there's anti-Semitism, are the same people telling us that we have to hate Muslims because they're Muslim. Well, and how is hating Muslims better than hating Jews?
Yeah, it's not.
Exactly.
If you hate Muslims because they're Muslim, that's...
the same as hating Jews because they're Jewish.
Yeah, correct.
I'm out.
But if you are opposed to Muslims who have read the Quran, which I've done a couple times, I read through the Quran, and the Muslim Brotherhood, the people, the jihadis, are not twisting the Quran.
I'm sure, I wouldn't know.
They are being consistent with it. And I see them as a far greater threat to the West than the state of Israel is. And so protecting Israel from Muslims, you could argue, is a roundabout way of protecting. It's a proxy.
How's that work for us?
It's a proxy war.
We went to war in Iraq in March of 2003 at the behest of Israel, flat out. Bibi said it, glad you're doing it. And I don't know, there's no debate about that. And then in the years since, we've gotten millions of Muslims in the United States, millions, since the Iraq war.
Yeah.
So how's that program worked out for us? We didn't have any Muslims in the United States when I was growing up. And as our support for Israel has become more and more fanatical, which it is, it's fanatical, can't even discuss it, anti-Semite, we've gotten more Muslims. So I don't think this works the way that we think it does.
Right. I think that the whole system at the top is demented.
Yeah, you think?
But that doesn't change the facts on the ground. We've got the problem that we have in Dearborn is a problem that London has.
The irony is that Dearborn is not a dangerous city compared with the surrounding cities. In fact, it is one of the safer ones, especially when it comes to violent crime. So targeting it here appears to have less to do with public safety and more to do with its Arab and Muslim identity and the political views of its residents.
And a bunch of other UK cities have, because we have lost our center. As the poet says, the center gives way.
No doubt.
Everything's sunk. The best lack conviction, the worst are full of passion and intensity. And that's where we are.
I would argue that because we are involved militarily and on many other levels in the Middle East, at the behest of Israel, we're there because of Israel. We have an air base in Qatar because of Israel. We have all these troops there because of Israel. We have a lot of Muslims.
We might have an air base in Idaho, Qatari, if the deal goes through.
Why is that? Because Israel bombed Doha, because they were doing we were doing a peace negotiation with Hamas. Why is that our job? Why is any of this our job? We've invaded the world and then we've imported the world. It happened to Britain. That's why they got immigration in the 60s, because their empire was coming down and they're like, oh, you're from Barbados, you're from Nigeria, those were British colonies, you move here. And we're doing the same thing. So how about we don't have actual interests in the Middle East, other than oil. Let's just pull back, because this is destroying our country.